My name is Leanne Hadley, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Pieta. We are in the middle of a new series, which is about the feminine faces of God. And I just realized it's Halloween, and I have my ghost earrings on and my Edward Scissorhands pin on. So it's a little crazy to be talking about God with all my Halloween stuff on. But anyway, here we are. Happy Halloween and happy All Hallows Eve. This is the night before All Saints Day. And so later tonight, I'll be lighting my candle on my ofrenda and thinking of all the people that, this is pretend died, and then I'll be thinking of the people that died and are now living in life eternal with God. So happy All Hallows Eve. And anyway, back to Pieta. This is a spiritual movement of love and compassion for ourselves, others, the earth, and all of God's creatures. And if you are looking for a place to grow your compassion, this might be an online community for you. So reach out if you'd like more information about it. We're going to begin with lighting our sacred candle. So I'm lighting our candle. There we go. Our candle is lit. We've entered our sacred time. And let's just be still for a moment, do our Pieta prayer, and then we'll look at our study for today. Let us pray. Let me be in the world with nothing to prove, letting go of all expectations and judgment. May I give and receive compassion. May I care for others and receive their care. May I love deeply and receive love. May I be in the world with nothing to prove. May I be Pieta. Thank you. This is a whole series that we've been part of, and we're talking about the feminine faces of God. And so far, we've talked about God as Elohim and Spirit, so God, the male and the female together. We've talked about God as the one who comforts like a mother eagle. We've talked about God, the one who comforts like a mother. And today, we're going to talk from Isaiah 49:15. And again, it's about a mother and a child. If it's not the masculine God, one of the main images of a mother or of God in the Bible is the mother mothering her child. So this is Isaiah 49:15. And it says, "Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has born? Though she may forget, I will not forget you." So God compares God's self to a mother who is nursing the baby that she has given birth to. The word forgot, so can a mother forget the baby at her breast? That word is discussed in the Bible many, many times. It's most often discussed in the book of Psalms 19 times, Deuteronomy 9 times, and Job 4 times. Forget is mentioned in 13 books of the Bible and occurs 51 times in the Bible. So there's something about that word forget that is really powerful. And if you think of our own lives, we don't like to be forgotten. You think about an old boyfriend and you think, wow, I wonder if he's still thinking about me. Or an old friend and you say, gosh, I'd like to reach out to that friend. I wonder if they even remember me. Being remembered, it seems to me, is something really core in our spirit. So we don't want to be forgotten, and it's just a core need to know that you make a difference and that you're remembered by people. And in this passage, again, let's hear it. Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she's born? Though she may forget, I will not forget you. It's one of the most comforting things that God could ever say to us. I will not forget you. I don't know why the being forgotten is so powerful, but it is. There's an interesting fact that's recently come out. I think it's been studied for several years now, but those of us who are just lay people are just hearing about this, I think, from the medical community. But there's an interesting thing about mothers and their babies, and it's called microchimera. And I'm sorry if you're medical and I just slaughtered that word, but I don't know how to say it. Anyway, I think that's right. There are many mothers, and I am one, and many mothers say, I feel like my child is a part of me. Like it's a different relationship than any other relationship I've ever had, where you feel like the child is part of you. And women for years have been criticized about this, get over it or cut the apron strings. I mean, there's a lot of shame that goes along with saying, I feel like my child is part of me. And then when people lose a parent, particularly a mother, and they say, oh my gosh, I feel like a part of me died. And it's just, there's something about being biologically connected, which makes it, I don't know, it's just hard to describe. And we've got a lot of shame around that. But what made me feel better as a mother who misses her children every day and feels like every day that they're away from me, I'm missing a part of my soul or a part of my being, there's this cellular invasion that happens where mothers carry a unique genetic material from their children's bodies, creating what biologists call a micromira, which is named after legendary beasts that are made of different animals. So this phenomenon is widespread among mammals, and they're trying to figure out what is the relationship, why does this happen? So they used to think that the uterus kept the baby separate from the mother and the mother separate from the baby, but now we know that in the blood that is exchanged while someone is pregnant, the cells from the blood can go anywhere, and they're really interesting cells. They work a lot like stem cells. So the fetal cells are pluripotent, which means they can grow into many kinds of tissue. So once these circulate around the body, they might lodge in your lung, they might lodge in your kidney, they might lodge in your muscle, and they're influenced by that muscle to become part of that. So it's not a separate thing. They become part of your muscle, part of your organs, part of your body. So when a mother says, I feel like my child is part of me, they literally are. Like that's how birthing happens. And the same with the babies. The mother cells are connected to the babies. Now, I find this really fascinating just from a scientific point of view, but also I find it really interesting if you think of God and this passage and God saying, I will not forget you. When we're made of each other's bodies, we can't really forget each other. I mean, there's nothing to forget. We are one. So it reminds me of the passage in Genesis where it's like we are made in the image of God. So God's DNA is like in us and our cells are in God. And, it's just interesting when you look at this scientific thing between mothers and babies and then God and the way God is like, if I am your mother, it's a much closer and a more biological and a more unifying vision than we've ever had of mothers and children. And then you read this and you think, wow, what if God and I are like this interchangeable thing? Parts of God in me and yet parts of me and God. It's really weird. And some people won't be able to stand this because they're like, no, God is perfect and God is separate from us and God is in heaven. But what if we just don't know everything about God yet? And what if it is more of this exchange of things between us and God? And then you take that out one more level and we are all connected because all of us that are made in God's image, we're all sharing all of these things, love and kindness and compassion. And it just blows my mind to think that if a mother's body and a child's body do this thing, then does that happen with God, with God's love, with God's compassion, with God's presence? I don't even know if this is making sense, but it made sense to Julian of Norwich, who is one of my favorite mystics. And Julian talked about this thing, which is called oneing, the oneing with God. And she lived during the time of the plagues, and she also was one of the people that lived walled off from society. And so she lived alone, and she talked to people through a window, but she did a lot of thinking and contemplating God. And she uses this idea of oneing in her book, which is the Revelations of Divine Love by Julian of Norwich. And this is what she writes. This beloved soul was so preciously knitted to God in its making, by a knot so subtle and so mighty that it is one in God, one with God. It reminds me of this thing that happens between a mother and a baby. We're so knit together that suddenly we become one with God. She talks about wanting a lot. And she was writing in the time of the plagues, and so it was a time where people felt that God was angry and was punishing them or distancing from them. So this was really radical at the time of Julian of Norwich, and she's saying, no. God is not far away. God is not punishing us. God is knitted together with us. We are one. It reminds me of those cells going back and forth and lodging themselves in the body of the other, wanting with God. She also says, if I pay special attention to myself, I am nothing at all, but in general, I am, I hope, in the unity of love. For it is in this wanting that the life of all people consists. So she says, I'm not the only one that's wanting with God. We're all connected to God. So it's almost like God is pregnant with all of us, and we're becoming one with God, and God is becoming one with us. It's a far out notion. It's a mystical notion. And we don't talk a lot about mysticism here at Pieta, but to me, it's beautiful. And it's the closest I can come to anybody talking about what this passage is really about, where God says, can a mother forget her child? Well, even if a mother could, I will never forget you. We're one with God. We're knitted together with God. You cannot forget what is part of you. You won't forget it. It's embedded in your very soul, your body, your soul, your mind, your spirit. God is embedded in us, and we in God. So of course we won't forget each other. For our time of reflection today, I thought maybe we could take a moment. You know, you've had those times where you just felt one with God, or maybe you haven't, but most of us have. So don't just think about times in prayer or at church or whatever. Think about, when you climbed your first mountain, or you gave birth to your first baby, or you brought a little kitten home and everything was just well in your heart, and you were just like everything, and you just felt one with God, one with the universe. Take a moment and think about those times when you experienced the wanting that Julian of Norwich was talking about. Once you are knit together, you cannot be separated. It's much like the cells between a mother and a baby. They can't be parsed out. They can't be separated. They've grown together. Wanting. It's a beautiful notion, I think. So spend some time today thinking about wanting, what that is in your own life. When do you feel the closest to God? And what were you doing when that experience happened? Is it something that you can make happen, or is it something that just happens to you? Spend some time thinking about that. And while you're thinking about it, think about yourself being knit together with God, and the fact that you won't forget God and God won't forget you, because it is impossible. According to Julian of Norwich, and I agree with her, we are so closely knit together that we are inseparable. None of us want to be forgiven. We all want to be forgiven. None of us want to be forgotten. God won't forget us. We're knit together with God, like a mother and a baby biologically are knit together. Thank you for being here. Let's close with our Pieta prayer. May we be in the world with nothing to prove, letting go of all expectations and judgment. May we give and receive compassion. May we care for others and receive their care. May we love one another. May we love deeply and receive love. May we be in the world with nothing to prove. May we be Pieta. I messed up the prayer. Oh well, I'm trying to memorize it. Anyway, have a great day. Thank you for being here. Happy All Hallows Eve, and happy reflection time as you one yourself with God. O-N-E, wanting. Thank you.